Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Talk Wargaming. I'm your host, Dom Maidlow, and I'm also known as Dark Techno Dom from the Realspace Raiders podcast, which is a Drukhari podcast. This is something a little different. I'm here interviewing tabletop legends, and here we have a real legend of 40k. This is Skari from Skard Cast.
Hello, I'm glad you think me a legend, and I appreciate the ego boost.
Thank you for coming on. Firstly, it's lovely to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dom. You know, I love what you are doing for the hobby and the community, and it's nice to have some fellow Archon aficionados in the metaverse out there, like making things happen, taking names. Congratulations on a great ITC season, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
It's nice to see you taking names for Comara.
Yeah, yeah, I did okay. I think I was 23rd globally, which was I didn't set out to do that, but it just kind of happened. So I mean, it helps that Drukhari book is a little broken, but yeah, thank you very much.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So those of you that don't know Skari or haven't checked out his stuff before, he is a very, very good content creator, and I actually got into Drukhari because of Skari's battle reports on YouTube. He inspired me from when he used to do his battle reports, painting and book reviews, and yeah, he's an OG Archon.
Yeah, I've been playing them since they were called Dark Eldar kids. That's wow. Yeah, I've been playing them for a good 15 to 16 years, I think now.
Oh wow,
almost 17 years. Yeah,
that's a long time. I've basically played every army, but I just kind of I used to get bored of them, so I got to a certain point where I used to have like 2,000 to 3,000 points of it, and then be like, don't like this, eBay, and then I move on to something else. And then my friends introduced to me Apocalypse, and then I got like an Apocalypse-sized orc army where I used to make stompers out of what was it, like upside down tubs of cookie tubs with plastic card, and then I would stick like guns from knights on them and stuff. So yeah,
that's awesome. We used to photocopy the hobby sections of the codexes and cut out the models and glue them on bases, and then have little paper models that represented the models before we bought them, because when we started playing, it was very expensive and we had no money. So that's how we used to proxy, was physically photocopying pictures of the models.
Oh yeah. So for those of you, again, like I was talking about Skari's content, so he does a Thursday stream and a Friday stream every week on Twitch called Just Put Paint on It with Tanya Gates, the War Mistress. I was on there last week, well, a couple of weeks ago from when this video
were indeed out.
And it's great fun. It's just you have guests on, don't you? And you just chat and put paint on Warhammer.
We did. We've had, anyone from Duncan Rhodes on this show all the way to Andy Chambers. So it's been, we've, it's awesome. I love bringing on folks from all different walks of wargaming, and we sit down, we chat, we have entrepreneurs on, we have hobbyists, we have painters, we have, competitive gamers, and we just sit down and paint and just chat about stuff, and it's really fun.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. You really like bringing the hobby to the table, and it's great to just like see how like I watch them because I work from home because of COVID, and it's great to just have you on my second screen, like painting away every Thursday and Friday. I feel like part of the chat, which is great, because if none of you go on Twitch, it's basically like a streaming service where you can actually interact with the people who are streaming. So a lot of the time I'll be in your chat commenting away, chatting to the War Mistress and yourself and whatever guests you have. So it's really good. It's really engaging. I quite enjoy it.
Well, I'm glad you do. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We've done over 30 episodes of season 2. And then the first season, which was last year during the height of the pandemic, I think we did 140 episodes, but that was almost every day, every week. Yeah, no, it's a fun little project.
Yeah. So you also have a lot of content on YouTube. So a lot of the time you can tune into his Meta Monday analysis, which goes on, which kind of follows any tournaments that have happened over the weekend, and then Skari will basically just chat about like what goes on.
Yeah, I'd say I do 2 sort of like Patreon videos every week. That's one of them. The second one is called List Crunch, where I have submitted lists and I read them through, and I provide critiques for like army lists that patrons have built and created. And every once in a while, I'll do it as a YouTube video just for everybody to watch, like the last one, because LVO just happened, so I thought I'd do one for like LVO basically.
Yeah, and it's great because it, like, especially for me, like as a competitive player, that I've got a lot of friends who are competitive players as well, and it's good to like, because sometimes 40k Stat Center doesn't always update all of the rankings, and it's that's a good place where you can see the top lists. But if not, Skari covers it, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I use there's a few users on Reddit that compile all the information. So they have it already compiled, and I don't compile any of the data. I just sort of like, explore the data for everybody who doesn't follow Reddit threads and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's great. And you can also, if you want Codex reviews or like book releases for all of the supplements that gamesworkshop like to give all of our armies now, so we have to spend more money.
Lots and lots.
Yeah, Skari does those as well as battle reports, and you do a range of battle reports, don't you?
I do, yeah. So first of all, like GW sends me a whole bunch of products for free for me to review, and I do end up doing that legally. I have to say that, I think, first, which is really fun. One of the coolest things I like doing about the Codex reviews, though, is I can't share, of course, the codexes until the embargoes go up. So I try and get faction experts with me to discuss like the codexes, and they won't have seen the codex either until I crack it open and we start talking about it live. And so you get to see sort of their reactions to rules unless there's like leaks and stuff, it then ruins the whole process. But then you get to see faction experts get excited about specific codex things, and it's one of the coolest things. Plus, they are the ones that keep me on track because I have no clue. And they'll be like, does this change? Does that change? I'm like, I have no idea. Let's check it out. And they'll know what questions to ask, and I'll just sort of like facilitate the answers. So it becomes very like a comprehensive review rather than just me flipping through pages and kind of just reading what it says on the page.
Yeah, which is good, and it's nice to have that sort of content because do you know what? A lot of people just kind of do reviews at the end of reading a codex being like, this is what you should look out for. But it's quite nice to actually have people genuine reaction to stuff that's in the book.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Some of those reactions are like, oh no, Games Workshop, why did you do with this? So including all of the above that we just talked about, you are currently teaming up with Miniwargaming and using the bunker to film some things.
I have been doing some collaborations with Miniwargaming for 9 months now, going on 9 months. So I'm not an employee for with Miniwargaming. It's more of like an independent contracting sort of situation where, I get compensated for my time. I film lots of battle reports with them. I've written and directed and filmed like a narrative campaign already. I'm on the live streams. I film AOS, 40K, Battlefleet. Like I do a lot of stuff, and it's really cool. I love it. It's so fun. I go in like once a week. I stay there for 2-3 days every week, and I just film 1 or 2 battle reports a day while I'm there, and just try and like crank out as much content as possible. I get to try all the weird, wacky things that I've always wanted to try, but I never had the models to do it with, and they just have like so many shelves of just miniatures. Like it's literally just shelf on shelf on shelf on shelf, and you can go, well, what am I in the mood for today? And you'd be like, I'm gonna make an army of all one thing, and then like it just do like silliest things. It's fantastic.
So there, do you just do 40k, or do you do other gaming systems there?
So my main system is Warhammer 40,000. However, I have very much been very big into Age of Sigmar of late, and I have had to learn 4 Well, I know 4 Age of Sigmar factions now, where before I knew not even one. 3rd edition Age of Sigmar came out. I played like Death, and I had Tomb Kings, which is a Legends army, and I've learned how to play Soulblight Gravelords. And then because Luca plays Soulblight Gravelords, I had to learn something else, so I played Sylvaneth. And then I played as many different Sylvaneth armies as I could in different combinations. And then I decided to go for full-on Hedonites of Slaanesh. Being a Drukhari player, that was kind of weird to like play Slaanesh.
Hey.
Wag your finger at me, why don't you know? But that was, I don't know why, like that army has vibed with me way too much. Like just the way it plays, it's like just speaks to me in like you have no idea. I guess there's a reason we birthed Slaanesh. But the style of game, like the style is really good. And then I also have recently picked up Daughters of Cain as well, which is a very different style. So learning how to play 4 completely different styles of Age of Sigmar while doing like 6 different like armies for 40k, like it's just constantly changing. It's really fun to like test all these things out week in and week out.
Oh, yeah. So I really like how the Age of Sigmar is really, really becoming into like the focus of some people now, because a lot of people have got quite frustrated with 40k, and they're like, you know what, Age of Sigmar just has better models, and they put a lot more effort into the really dynamic poses of characters, the cow elves, all of those
the cow elves,
yeah, and it actually looks pretty good. Like I originally had a Ogre Kingdom army, but I did them as like Maori with like the tattoos and everything, and I really got into it. And just as I finished painting the last ogre, it changed to Age of Sigmar, and I was like, oh, I can't use this now. Goodbye. But I really wish I kept them, because I could have just had an army ready to play some Age of Sigmar. Or grotesques. 8 minutes grotesques. That may have been a good idea.
Let's just say that the switch from Warhammer Fantasy to Age of Sigmar was one of the most convoluted ways to like kill an edition and move on to something else. The game itself, though, in the last few years has really evolved and adapted to a very. If you're an avid 40k player and you haven't tried Age of Sigmar, it is a very fun and intricate system. And people go, the biggest like elephant in the room is the double turn. But once you've played with it enough, like you just play with it and it just becomes part of the game and it becomes less of an issue. I just love how you pick your like secondaries like every turn, and you have to try and get your points, and it's very like 40k-ish in that way. And I feel like you play the game in both your opponent's turn and in your turn rather than just in your turn, which a lot of times is in 40k, where you just go, it's my turn, move, shoot, charge, and your opponent is just like rolling reactionary dice, like just taking saves the whole time. Whereas in Age of Sigmar, you playing your turn, but you might have a second turn right after, so you want to set that up. Or you're playing your turn and your opponent might take 2 turns after you, so you have to set that up. And then during your opponent's turn, you can like move with a unit and like redeploy them like in reaction to what they're doing. And like there's a lot more going on, I find, a lot of the times.
Yeah, and I always kind of saw Age of Sigmar as almost like the testing ground for like what like the focus would be for 40k rules, because I do think that 40k is a lot more complicated, because I can't see the double move working in 40k. I think it's a bit too brutal of a game.
No, it's the double turn would not work. I could see them sort of like creating some sort of more reactionary stuff, that if you like Overwatch was something that was reactionary, they put in so that if you got charged, like you had a chance to potentially do damage, right? But maybe more reactionary stuff. We're starting to see that in Tau, where if you charge them, they move, or like they, you know what I mean? Or like
Grey Knights as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's all these things. Oh, you shoot me, I'm going to teleport my Grandmaster over here. Like that sort of thing. So you can see the mechanics working their way into 40k. It's just a matter of how they sort of manifest in the future with different rule sets.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. Like I actually have because I collect a lot of chaos. I've got so many points of chaos. I built them because I was hoping one day that I could go switch between 40k and Sigmar, and I can. And thankfully they've got the round bases now, so I wouldn't have to buy all of the movement trays. Even though I did like the dynamic of the movement trays and the tactics and moving them along, because it was a bit like Total Warhammer, which I'm a huge fan of.
Huge fan of Total Warhammer.
Big time, big time. And
there's also this really cool.
Stuff.
There's also, talking about fantasy, there's this cool project called the Warhammer Armies Project, and it's like Steve the Mountain, who does a lot of stuff at Miniwargaming, has this channel. That's the game that he focuses on the most, and it's essentially a conglomeration of 7th and 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy before it all went to, and it's a community-driven project. Very like the balance is really good. The all the resources for it are very well done. And it's like playing Warhammer Fantasy. So if you have like your Warhammer Fantasy army, you got friends who want to try it out, it's called Warhammer Armies Project, and it's refined. Like it's a loved project with a lot of involvement, and I think it's fun. I played my Tomb Kings, like actual rank and file Tomb Kings, for the first time in 10 years. It was great.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so yeah, I think like people check that out because it's something that I've really wanted to get into, because I just have, because Chaos aren't the best right now. I've just got all of these models just sitting just in the corner gathering dust, and I really just want to play with them. So maybe I could do that, have a little dabble in that, and get the Lord of Change out, which I rolled for his name at my club, and my club love it. Everyone was getting like Destroyer of Worlds, like as their like name generator for their greater demons. I was Zinch, and so I had I rolled on the name generator, and I rolled, and it was wind face.
Wind face.
Yeah, I know, it's so stupid. But
the greatest Lord of Change of all times, constantly changing because his face is wind.
Exactly. You don't know where he's going. So you do a lot of work with Miniwargaming, and it's great that you do like you're in the studio, and it's great to see the updates and that. But you also are part of Art of War, aren't you?
I am. I'm one of the coaching team on the Art of War. Yeah.
So how do you like coaching? Because I've never done anything like that, and I think it's really interesting.
I love teaching. I went to school. I finished my bachelor's degree in like history and like English literature, and I wanted to be a teacher. Then after university, I got into sales for 7, almost 8 years, and now I do content creation full time. And part of doing that is teaching people how to play the game or how to play competitively or whatnot. I enjoy coaching, and it is a very controversial topic. Like some people are polarized very one way or another. You know what I mean? And that's completely fine. It's like if you go to the gym, some people go to the gym and don't need a personal trainer. They just go in, they have the discipline to do their reps, and and some people hire a personal trainer, whether it's for short term or long term, where the trainer has experience and can tell you if you want to work on your abs or your core or your tone or whatever it is. They'll have a specific regimen for you, and they'll know what your diet you should keep and what machines you should work in certain times to kind of fit into your personal schedule or whatever it is to get the goals that you're looking for. And it's very similar with 40K coaching. It's more about catering it to the person. And I enjoy teaching, and I love like going, oh yeah, you can like charge a character that's going to heroic intervene you and a unit, and then pile in away from the character, get them out of combat, and they're like, ooh, that's cool. It's like, yeah, because a lot of people don't think of the little nuances until you sort of bring it up, and then they use it, and they're like, I feel like I'm like that improved my game somehow and stuff. So it's good. I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I can see it being incredibly rewarding, because some people aren't lucky enough to kind of have like regular competitive clubs like myself. We've got a lot of competitive players in my club, and because I live around London, it's so easy for me to get everywhere up the country to all of these events. But some people generally need a help because they don't understand the game well enough, or they need like your years of gaming experience, and they kind of just want to get into it because maybe their friends are into it and they're just getting beaten all the time and they really just want some help to get to the level that they should be to compete. And it's if you haven't been in the hobby for a while, it does take a long time.
Yeah. No, it does, and sometimes it can be something as simple as jumping to a new faction, like I've coached, like when Dark Eldar first came out, I coached Boris, and I coached him for a couple of months just to get him into like Drukhari specific, and and that it was a short period of time, built a list, got like a training regimen in, and he's a very skilled player, and then and he then kind of got him kickstarted into that. And well, he did really well at LVO. That's years later, but I mean, you never know where someone's going to take that information or how long they're going to use it. But it's really cool to see, be like, oh yeah, I helped that guy build a list, or I helped that person, like what I mean. And it's kind of rewarding in a sense, especially during the pandemic where I haven't really been able to go to events as much, right? So it's I live vicariously through people. I'm like, go my pretties, go play.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think it's great. I really do. I really like. I'm in the boat. I used to be in the boat of like, oh, why do people pay for coaching and all that sort of stuff. But then I actually kind of had the light bulb moment where I was just like, I'm just thinking about it from my point of view of like, I wouldn't take coaching. But what about the people who need it? And some people do, like, it is so helpful to have someone who generally knows what they're talking about and picks up all the tiny little bits of the game that maybe you don't realize you can pile in here, or you can take a succubus and she can just yeet out of combat whenever she wants. And people just look first glance at the book, just don't get it. So it's great.
Combination.
I think it's really good. Really, really good.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
So you are an Archon.
I am. I'm the embodiment of Archon. Me and Vect go way back. Okay.
You guys are bros.
We are bros. I haven't survived in the Dark City this long by not being Archon E. So.
Yeah. It's a hellish environment for people who can't.
You know what? It's not for everyone, Dom. It's a very cliquey society over here, so we judge everyone.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have a little Drukhari talk now. Have this little Drukhari section because I'm obviously super keen to talk Drukhari with you. Like
Dark Eldar to you,
myself. I've got a few questions. Some fun related to Drukhari. Some are just related to just Warhammer in general. But first off, what armies do you collect in general?
So a few. I have Drukhari, Dark Eldar, which is like my main one. I do have an Astrum of the Tarm army, which is mainly the old Talarn models. That was one my dad started years ago, and and my brother had some pieces in there, and I've just kind of kept the collection, so I have it. I've added to it here and there over the years. I have a small Sisters of Battle army with the old metal Sisters of Battle, just about 1,000 to 1,200 points, nothing crazy. I do have a full Black Templar army, an entire Firstborn, and now an entire Primaris Black Templar army. So it's like two sides of that. Yeah, I do have the Inari stuff. I had a donated Craftworld Eldar army that one of the Patreons donated, which is a gorgeous army painted by Den of Imagination. It is absolutely incredible. And I cannot paint like that. Okay, I cannot take credit. But it's a full-blown like 4,000 points of Eldar, which I'm really excited about using soon.
Wow.
Yeah. And like a 1,000 Suns army, a giant 1,000 Suns army that was donated by the same person. I haven't used it yet, but it's another like 4,000 points of 1,000 Suns. Wow. So let's just say I went from owning a few to having a decent amount. That's just for 40k. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So what was your first army?
Black Templars. I bought the box set from 3rd edition. Which had the Space Marines and Dark Eldar in it. And yeah, my brother and I used to play a lot. We used to build and play. We'd split the contents of the box, and we'd take turns getting beat up by the Space Marines.
Yeah,
Because it was very unbalanced. Like the Space Marines had a land speeder, okay, and land speeders were armor 10, which back in the day was like vehicles had an armor value, and all of the splinter weapons on Drukhari was strength 3. So the way you did damage to a vehicle was adding your strength to a d6 roll to try and penetrate the armor of the vehicle. A 3 strength weapon with a d6 can't even hurt a land speeder in that system. So
what a box.
like if you had the splinter cannon, you were strength 4, so you could glance, you could equal the armor, so you could glance the vehicle. But let's just say that eventually my brother went into Tau, and he started collecting Tau, and I just stuck with the Black Templars, and that was my first full army. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they released that at Christmas, didn't they? Games Workshop did for limited time only, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they did recently. Just the old 3rd edition. A lot of people messaged me like, "Ooh, look, it's a Skari box or whatever," and I was like, "That's funny." If they would have released it with the trees, the little old jungle trees, and the like little tiny ruins, it would have been perfect.
Yeah,
but they didn't. So
no
jokes on that.
So, what Games Workshop games have you played other than 40k recently?
Battlefleet Gothic.
Oh,
It's
really?
one of my favorites. I love Battlefleet Gothic. I do own like 3 epic Armageddon armies, like epic armies, which are really fun. And recently, Age of Sigmar is like the main one that I've played recently as well. And I do have the rules for Kill Team and Necromunda and all that stuff. I just haven't played them recently, so I can't say I have. And Blackstone Fortress is a game that I've had a lot of fun with as well. I did a whole series on that. Yeah, it's a really fun game. And it gets better the more of the add-ons you get from the White Dwarfs and all the upgrade packs and stuff.
Yep.
So I got to DM. We did like a 10-game series, like Critical Role style, where we like sat around the table back in the days where you could hang out with people, and and it was fun. Blackstone Fortress is really fun. I recently got a brand new box set of it, so because the one we had was the store copy, so I have a set now. And Miniwargaming just gave me a whole Space Hulk box. So yeah, I'm so excited to paint that and play that. So just really pumped. Yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because I'm a big fan of some of the spin-off games. Like I've got like on your stream on the just put paint on it. I was painting Blood Bowl, which I got as a Secret Santa from my friends, which I'm super looking forward to doing. But I screwed up the armor on the second wave.
Oh, no!
Didn't water down the contrast paint that I was using for the shoulder pads with the medium, so they're so dull compared to like they're just a block green rather than like really nicely settled into all the crevices, and it looks like they've been edged highlighted already. So I'm almost tempted to just respray them in Xenophil again and then redo
it again.
Yeah, just because like
the thing about a Blood Bowl team, it's a small team. You can take your time, and then each player kind of gains its own character over time. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, and what's quite good in the box set, it comes with loads of like decals that you can put on all of them. But I noticed that there's loads of lettering, so I'm just going to name them all stuff.
Amazing. Cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so if you could use an army for the whole of 2022, what would it be? You can't use any other 40k army.
Drukhari. 100% Drukhari. It's 3 different armies in one. It means I could literally just play all Coven, all Witch Cult, all Cabal, mix them in different combinations. Like there's so many different things you can do with the faction. I would never get bored.
Yeah, that's another reason why I love it. Because when I first got into Drukhari and got my name Dark Technodom, it's because I only used to run Dark Technomancers because everyone was running Prophets of Flesh, and I was like, don't want to do what everyone else is doing. I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah.
So I just used to run Dark Technomancer, and I used to love like playing the games because I thought it was so competitively then a year later, everyone was like, "Oh, it's so powerful and big nerf," and I was like, "I told you guys, I've been doing this for years." Yeah. So speaking of Drukhari, if you could add any unit to Drukhari, what would it be?
The Decapitator. I
Ah,
would bring him back. Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, Credula, I believe his name was, or something like that. The Decapitator. He was the Mandrake, basically special character. He has he literally basically just collects skulls, and he's he's creating a portal out of skulls or something. It's like really macabre. But he always was terrible. His lore is like the coolest lore, but his rules were always horrible.
Oh,
So
God.
it'd be cool if they brought it back though.
Okay, what rules would you give him to make him interesting?
Well, I'd give him like a Mandrake style rule. Maybe do something like, I don't know, make all Mandrakes random cool, or the old Death Leaper rules. Like you pick a character and that character got really scared that the shadows were trying to eat him or something. Like I feel like oh yeah, your psyker is like -2 leadership, and like your -1 weapon skill or -1 to hit now because something's after you. You can feel the chills on the back of your neck.
That would be really cool if you had to
Yeah.
make a leadership test like every time he did something. So if not,
Or
he would
just
be
freeze and be like, "Oh, they're after me." Oh,
yeah.
no.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
This monster's under the bed. Where's my teddy?
Yeah, that's really cool. I'd like to know if you could add another sort of heavy support, like either for Cabal or I mean, you wouldn't really get Witch Cult, but if Cabal or Coven, what would you bring?
The spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read The Path of the Archon by Andy Chambers, all the tortured Wraith stuff, like Wraith Lord, Wraith Guard, Wraith Knights, like that literally Vector's tortured and turned into monsters.
Yeah.
Like that's what I would
that's
add.
cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people on our Drukhari Discord who have made wraiths into grotesques by like damaging their the big helm and
oh, that's cool.
like cracks and stuff, and then their arms are like spikes coming out like they're slowly decaying. That's super cool. Cool.
And that would work. Well, that would work very well, and lore-wise, it's appropriate too, because they literally take the spirit stones and torture them until they go crazy, and then they just let them loose. After watching that Warhammer Plus episode, I'm like, oh, that's even worse. Like that was someone's mum, man.
Oh God. We're not the nicest of factions, are we?
No. Yet I love it.
Yeah, I know. Oh, it's good. It's good to be bad.
It is. It is. We birthed a god. We partied so hard. Woo!
Yeah. Exactly. So, what's been your favorite unit to play competitively in 2021, and what has been your favorite units to play with in non-competitively in 2021 Drukhari?
Oh boy. I just say that just a generic Archon is always my favorite. Like he's just because he's so hit or miss. Like some days you just go in and you'll make like 40 to 60 like Shadowfield saves in a row and just make your opponent like want to just like pull all their hair out.
Yeah.
And sometimes you take that first save or whatever and he just dies. And you're like, well, that's an Archon for you.
It's not even funny like how much you fail that save,
right?
Like, I always say I'm gonna fail it and I'm like, see.
It's one of the reasons I never take the Shadowfield save until it's his last wound.
Yep.
Always just take his armor or cover or power from pain save and just take every save, and then when it's his last wound left, then you start taking the Shadowfield save.
And then you still roll the 1.
And you still roll the 1. Yeah. Or you don't fail at all. There's just no in between.
Yeah. So that is that competitively or for
both. In my crusade, like my Archon is definitely like the center of attention in the crusade that I'm playing. Archon Skari has been building his little empire in Comora and dodging assassination attempts and stuff. It's actually really fun. And in the competitive scene, he's just a force multiplier, but even though he doesn't do a lot, I don't run the kill the Archon very often because that's like the succubus's job.
Yeah.
I use more of a buffing style like Archon, but he's just annoying. And in competitive
yes.
play, people are just annoyed of him all the time. They're like, I don't want to deal with a 2-up invul, even though they know it's probably just going to fail. They don't want to risk it.
Yeah, some really fun plays you could do with the Archon as well when you have the bodyguard keyword.
Mm-hmm.
Put them on an objective and
That's
then
right.
hide the people
Can't shoot me, Mr. Tau.
Yeah.
I'm going to hide, but it's good. I like it.
Yeah. So, what do you predict your 2022 favorite unit's going to be?
Oh, it depends what the balance slate update does. If they sort of like tweak too much with grotesques and talos, it's very easy to say grotesques and talos. Oh, yeah, they're so good, right? However, I love Reaver jet bikes, and my favorite is probably like Void Raven bombers. I just love them so much. I've won so many games in like a single movement phase. And lost so many games in a single movement phase.
When that bomb doesn't go off, you're like...
That's why you take 2 of them. Take 2 so you have a second chance. But at least the local meta in this whole region, like this whole region of Ontario, like there are specific things people take because I love Void Raven bombers. Because they know that if that Void Raven bomber goes off and I murder all their characters, their army's just gone.
Yeah. I kind of wish they were a little bit cheaper because then I think people would take them because then they're not as scary as they used to be. Like everyone who's watching this, like that's like what the WAS bomber is like now for the orcs. That was the Void Raven bomber. It used to come on with its dark sides and used to be like, oh dear, stuff's about to die. But now it's quite expensive and there's too many invulnerable saves in the game.
Yeah,
to really make it justify. What was it like? 170?
Well, it used to be 195 with 2 dark sides. Now it's 185. They did go down 10 points in the update. I just like it for the bomb mainly because it forces your opponent to split up. Because if they do their little castle and you do get all the mortals off and you kill, like I've killed chapter masters and apothecaries and like plague guys and like any of the flamer plague guys and just everything, archons, succubuses, like it's just things just die when the bomb goes off, and it just forces people to split up, and then allows the rest of my army to sort of like isolate and destroy little pockets of the enemies. So it's not necessarily the bomb, it's more like what it forces your opponent to do that I like. And then of course you play poison tongue, so if you don't go first you're like, I'm gonna hide them, going back in reserve,
which is the best way to do it.
Exactly.
So how do you use Court of the Archon?
Well, that's a great question. The court is something I haven't used competitively at all since the book came out. With my own models. I've done it in TTS, so that's a lie. I have done it in some like WTC tests, which has been very much put it on the line with microtesks and Talos and run forward and murder everything with Thick City. That's usually how that works. But the main way that I like to use it is as a sort of like a countercharge unit, because it has so many volume of attacks that it can like mop up anything the Coven doesn't kill. So you send the Coven in, anything that survives the Coven just gets mopped up by the court. And then early game, you can totally use it to, especially against like shooty armies like Tau, Admech. If there's an objective right in the open, they're perfect to just make that Archon sit on the objective, and you can't shoot the Archon off that objective. You have to come clear him, and then on the other objective that's in the open, I put my Master Homunculus. So even if you shoot him, he just stands back up. So you have to go get him too, right? So you can, I am invincible, So it allows you to play into the primary against armies that will overwhelmingly destroy Drukhari a lot of the time, and I think that's the most useful use for him and that unit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because you can get a lot of shenanigans with that, with like completely ignoring the Overwatch and all of that sort of stuff. Do you know what? I really like the models, and I just every game someone's like, "Is that a unit? Are they individual?" Why is
well, everybody remembers when they were all individual characters, in like one codex ago. But the unit is I had somebody message me. I just finished painting for Drukhari. I painted my 4 Slith, my 4 Urgles, the 2 Lamians, the Medusa, and like the court that I have. Somebody messaged me on Instagram. don't you have one too many Slith? Isn't there like a rule of 3? I'm like, it's a unit, bro.
Yeah.
You can take it. You have to 4.
Yeah, they look really good, by the way. I really like them.
Thank you.
I like how over the past, over COVID, you've kind of like started to like repaint some of your Drukhari.
Yep.
They're looking nice.
Thank you. I really, really like the color combination. It's been like I'm really enjoying just painting now, where I have enough that I can just go to a tournament and run just what I own as my tournament army, which is all chipped and broken and kind of like glued on. It's the workhorse army. And now I've been able to focus on upgrading everything to that showcase army, right? Because and it's been a very fun labor of love to get it up to that standard.
Yeah, I can imagine. I totally get you, because I had just a GW like Citadel case, which I'd taken to all of the tournaments last year.
Yeah.
And those Hellions grab onto that foam like they don't want to come out of that case.
Yep.
Like my fiance managed to like get me for Christmas a Magpie's case, and bless her, it's so cool. Like nice. I saw it when I opened it up, I was like, oh, what is this? And it's changed my life, because I can literally you could probably put about 4,000 points worth of Drukhari in it. It's got so much space.
Yeah. It's not confined by but you just have to make sure you have the magnets on, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what I had, I cannot remember the website. I might put them in the description of this video, but it's almost like sticky sheets that you put on the bottom of the bases. So
yeah, I know Squad Marks has a whole bunch of those that they have their base markers, and then they also have the sticky magnets on the bottom. I have a ton of those as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you literally just put them on, and then you just sit in there, and it's great because I can have my Talos, I can have my boats, minus the
sails.
Sails, that's it. That's a word.
I've got the battle foam, the deep battle foams for my Raiders. I just put the whole thing in, and it's like just a tray, and it just and I bought those. I want to say 15 when in 2010 when the new stuff was released, and I've had that foam tray since 2010, and it's been amazing. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. So go back to Drukhari. If you could bring a rule from the previous edition into this edition, what would it be?
Jet bike for my Archon and combat drugs.
Yeah.
Like you can give combat drugs to an Archon in Crusade, right? So that's really fun. Like when you're playing Crusade and you're playing with witches in your army, you can literally pay like a requisition to give your Archon combat drugs, which is really fun. Wow. But yeah, it's really cool. And that's like a blast from the past, because before it was an upgrade, and I missed that so much. I missed the Archon on a jet bike flying around just injecting himself with all sorts of stuff. And he was like a demon prince. Like he would go in and just like murder entire squads. He was scary.
He would that would be quite terrifying now if a succubus or an Archon could have, or a homunculus could have one, because you would just have the fight last Archon being like yeet, like straight over,
just go wherever you want. Like before, you had a list of 6 combat drugs, right? So back in like 3rd edition, 6 combat drugs. There you go. And you could pick any number of effects at the start of your turn. Right, you could pick 1 effect, 2 effect, 4 effects, all of the effects at once, and for each effect you would roll a dice. On doubles you took a wound, on triples you OD'd and died. That was it. That was the mechanic.
Oh, that's so funny. I love stuff like that.
So if you were like really feeling it, you'd go for 4. You'd go for reroll misses in combat, +1 attack, +1 strength, and double the range of the charge. Because back in the day, you could only charge 6 inches. There was no like 2d6 charge, but you could do up to 12-inch charge. And the other one was fight first, and then there was something else. Anyway, so it was like you could literally go for like, I need to kill this thing. I need to do all the drugs, and then you just hope you didn't roll triples.
Yeah, God. God. Yeah. So if you could replace a rule.
If I could, like in the current codex.
In the current codex, you just go, that's not in, this is replacing it.
I to be honest, like the rules as they are right now are pretty fun. I really like the rules that they are. I wish that like Realspace Raid gave more benefits to armies that aren't just Blackheart. You know what I mean? Like Blackheart gives you like, oh, if you're a Realspace Raid but you're Blackheart Realspace Raid, your Archon can get a cool relic that affects more things. You know, your Incubi are better, your like Mandrakes are better, your Scourge are better. But like it's the only way to do it. I feel like that should have been built into the Realspace Raid, if that makes sense. You know?
So then maybe you take like the other Cabals.
Yeah, that's right. You know, you might take something that's not just, you know, Cabal or Blackheart. You know, especially if you're using Incubi or Mandrakes or Scourge or whatever. But that's what I'd kind of tweak a little bit.
Yeah, I always think that I still, even as a competitive player for like as Drukhari, I still don't think we should have advance and charge so early.
Turn 2? I know.
Yeah,
it's so strong. Like you don't even need to do anything to him. You just move and you just get in position and you go, all hell's gonna break loose next turn. You gotta be ready for this.
So many times I've just been like, you've got to be careful. Don't move forward too quickly. And they're like, why?
It doesn't matter where you are. Like a Hellion, like a Red Grief Hellion with plus 2 inches of movement, right? With the drug, can go from one end of the table to the other in Hammer and Anvil in a single turn. Oh, it's just so silly.
Yeah, I love Red Grief as well. Like one of my this model I've got here, which is one of my mates, Steve, Bolters on Instagram, painted for me. That was my favorite succubus because of the Bloodglaive. I just always loved the idea of the Bloodgrave, and it sucks that all of the strife strats aren't just witch strats, because otherwise I would just run Red Grief because of the extra movement and stuff.
Yep, movement wins games. Also, Bloodglaive with precision strikes is hilarious when it goes off.
Flat 3 more wounds.
Which you can also do with Strife and Shardnet and Impaler, and you don't even need a relic. And you do. You need the Lotus Toxin. Yeah.
So speaking of more competitive like lists and things, the current codexes that have come out this year, when we're recording this, is Custodes and Genestealer Cult. They have literally just dropped.
Tau technically in like 3 days.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they've dropped as well. So it's kind of shaking up the meta in a weird way at the moment, because no one really is prepared for how good the Custodes book is. Like we saw at LVO that Custodes were cleaning up. I mean, how do you feel like they have affected the meta?
They are an elite, durable army that played the emissions from the 2021 pack really well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What happened is Custodes were never terrible. No. They didn't win very often, but they never lost by much. They could score points. You know, coaching a few Custodes players, all I ever saw was if they ever lost, they always lost by like a few points, 5 points, 6 points. Like it was very close in that threshold. And what happened is that book kind of tipped them over the edge, gave them some 9th edition gumption.
Yeah.
And then
combat drugs.
Right. Just a little bit of 9th edition injected into the book, and all of a sudden a lot of the dynamics of the rule interactions work a lot better with the rule set. So instead of just losing by a little bit, now they're winning, right? And so you're just seeing that come into fruition.
Yeah, and I think it's like good to point out that 9th edition, like when you get your book or even supplement like the NIDs have got, it almost like turns you in Super Saiyan. It turns the army on its head and it goes, it's now ready to party. Like
all of a sudden you have rules and mechanics that are relevant to the game that you're playing and not trying to play, you know, an edition in the past. Right. And I think that definitely helps, of course. And it takes a while for folks to get the hang of it. I think Genestealer Cult is going to have a bigger impact in the meta as a whole. Personally. I just think it takes a faction expert to truly master the Genestealer Cult, because they're only 5-up saves, and you know, like they're not exactly the toughest units, but someone who has a good mind for technical play will outplay anyone with Gene Steel Cult. A lot more than Custodes, which are just, they're very straightforward. You've got some tricks, but they're not exactly an army you have to think too much about. It's like you've got tough stuff. I've got things that can kill you in shooting and in combat. I have some mobility. I have durability. And I just pick the right secondaries and I'm going to score points, and it's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
And it's quite nice of them to actually get some actual secondaries other than just banners or stranglehold. Like they can actually they've got their own stuff now, which is good.
Well, better stranglehold, which is even more amazing in the new missions. But yes.
Yeah, and dark lances on their bikes.
Correct.
Yeah, it's the correct way of saying them. Stop saying that they're missile launchers. They are not. They are dark lances.
That is right.
So, do you have any advice for anyone who hasn't played Custodes at all or Gene Stealer Cult? Have you got? There's kind of two answers there that I'm kind of looking for.
So when it comes to Custodes, you still need to try and isolate and destroy, which is like one of the biggest things. Don't hit the Custodes when they're in a pack. That's the worst thing you can do because they will outlast you and murder you. You just can't do it. Secondly, it's counterproductive in a way, but when you try and focus fire, which is something we do a lot in competitive play against Custodes, your efficiency goes way down because of the defensive reactive stratagems that they have access to.
Very good.
So you sort of need to diversify your damage, right? They might have lots of 3-strong units or 4-strong units. Into a Custodes list, it's just as effective taking one model from each unit as it is to try and kill a unit of 3. But the efficiency of trying to kill one unit of 3 with all your guns, your efficiency goes way down with no reroll strats or defensive buffs and bonuses. So what you want to try and do is set it up so you can focus fire if you want. Start focusing fire, trigger the defensive strats, and then pivot to something else, right? And then kind of rinse and repeat. And don't overcommit because they will murder 4 or 5 of your things in one go. And you cannot do a trade of one thing for 5 of yours. You have to out-trade them. And you can only do that by not overcommitting to something, especially into Custodes.
Yeah, so what sort of like weaponry style is like the sweet spot for Custodes? Is it AP2, lots of AP1, or like AP3, or just volume of attacks?
Volume is always the best. Even if you are playing against the 4-up, ignore mortal wounds. Like mortal wounds are still going to be an effective way to get through the first stage, which is that armor and that toughness, right? So if you can just do mortals, you might be able to ignore them on 4s, but that's damage that's more likely to go through. Dark lances and heat lances are always really good, but it is it's the fickleness of the 4+.
Yeah.
Right, because they will either make all their 4+s or they won't.
There's
either it's the same thing. So Talos, I find Talos to be one of the best things against Custodes personally. I love my heat lances. I love my macro scalpel and ejectors, and they don't. Other than the dreadnoughts, they don't have a lot of damage reduction, which means those Talos gauntlets will go in and like kill guard if they fail saves. So they have to be wary about the Talos and. If they are careful of your units, it allows you to have more agency in the game itself to dictate the pace of what's happening. Instead of like them dictating the pace on you and forcing you into situations. And I think that's important. You want to be on the making choices end of the making choices when you're playing Drukhari into that matchup.
Yeah, true. And for people who play like Space Marines and stuff like that, is a lot of like lightning claws and grav weapons which are good for Custodes?
Well, grav weapons are definitely an interesting choice because of the high saves and good AP on the grav. I can come at this as a Black Templar player.
Yes.
As a Black Templar player, my crutch would more than likely be my Blade Guard with my Tannhauser's Bone Chaplain that can just tank everything.
Solid.
And then the Apothecary just goes up and heals him every turn. And then it's like, and he's like, what Trajan? Bring it.
I'd love to see that matchup.
Yeah, oh yeah. I don't care how many damage you have. You're 1 damage. And I'm going to survive this. It's just so good.
So the question for Genestealer cult as well, but coming at it from like an all army split like point of view, what is good? What do you need to kind of combat like Genestealer cult? Is it forward deploy? Is it
against Genestealer cult? One of the best things that works is having transports. To be honest, having Venoms, Raiders, things that the Genestealer cult has to crack open to get to, especially in the backfield. The last thing you want is for the Genestealer cult to come in and flame a unit of 5 racks on an objective. You want them to have to crack open the Venom first to then flame with a little unit that popped up. Yeah. Another thing that's important to note is you need to learn how to screen 12 inches in between units instead of 18 inches in between units, right? So your screen has to zigzag 6 inches instead of 9 inches. So you're going to have to learn how to play on a reduced front, especially in the backfield, to stop them from being able to get in and in between your units and force them in front of you. Genestealer cult's a lot easier to play if you keep them in front of you. If they start popping out everywhere and you fight on their terms, you're going to lose. You need to like keep them like, I need you here in that spot. Okay, as long I don't care if I lose everything in the front. As long as you're in that spot right there, I can deal with you. And that's the key Genestealer cult.
Yeah. I've actually been thinking of looking at it from a Drukhari point of view, is getting some beasts in, just to be cheap units that can just sit all over the board.
Yeah, just screen
off half a board, do a big X in the middle.
Birds are fantastic. I've actually been experimenting with running a brigade Realspace raid, so I can put Drazar in my Realspace raid, right? So I can have multiple HQs and not have to use the extra command point and take a beast pack master, a bunch of beasts to kind of help fill out the fast stack slots and stuff. And I'm already taking 6 troops anyway, which is like the minimum you need for, and then and a cut like a Ravager and a unit of Talos and like a Kronos unit, you filled up your heavies. So it's like not unhurt, it's like you can do it. But yeah, those beasts are cool. I like them. Yeah.
So just got a couple more questions, and then because I like to keep these interviews quite like bite-sized for like I'm a commuter and I commute into London a lot, so I like to have that sort of like time just to like bite-sized episodes. So just got a couple more. So the new missions, do you like the idea how they switch it up every year?
Well, 6 months nowadays.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm liking the new missions. They're not exactly the same, but they're different enough that they're different. And I like how grindy they are. And by that I mean I like how you're fighting for lots of bite-sized points in more places. And I think that's going to lead to closer, more dynamic games.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of some of the mission special rules that directly impact certain list builds. So having like one mission where you can't forward deploy anything, that's massive. Like if you've built a list that's very, if you built a list that's very reliant on that mechanic, you know what I mean? You can't do that, right? So you have to diversify within your army because of the fact that there's a mission that is directly countering some of your mechanics, which is very, very something that's very much seen in Age of Sigmar missions. Like there's one mission that you can only hold objectives with characters. And if you didn't bring enough characters, you're not going to hold missions, or like you're not going to hold objectives, because the characters are the only ones that can take objectives away and hold objectives.
Yeah.
So, and I like that as well. There's ways to mess with people's command points. And then the bonus points are excellent. Actions, getting places, holding objectives in different places, which really... it's cool. I haven't played them enough to like fully give you an overview, but from what I've played so far, I am liking the new missions a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I do kind of like the shake up, because you get kind of used to how everything works, and you just become a bit of not saying like every competitive player is a robot, but like you just get into the mindset of like, all right, this mission I know I need to do, and you just do it. Now it's shaking it up where I'm like, okay, I've actually got to think about this, otherwise I won't get command points.
Yeah.
So maybe
I won't get a command point
just to keep.
Or I can't throw my warlord away, or I won't get a command point, or I need to hold this objective, or I won't get my command point. So the thing I love the most, or really, is I I no longer have to try and hold objectives all the time if I can get the bonus points. Because a lot of the points, getting full max on bonus points means that I can give up an objective that's contested without throwing away resources that I'm gonna need somewhere else. I think that's the most, because I mean, like, instead of holding 2 for 2 turns, I need to hold 2 for 1 turn. I can hold 1, or and then at the end I can hold 3, as long as I focus on this bonus point. So okay, let's put some effort and energy into putting little sabotage markers down or whatever it is.
It's nice to shake it up. And secondaries as well. They're shaking them up as well.
It's nice to see the factions that don't have books yet as well get some secondaries.
Some love,
Chaos Space Marines, Demons. They're not all perfect. Okay, that's fine. It's just nice that they have an option now if they want to.
So that kind of brings the end of the show. Like, thank you so much for coming on and joining me to talk about Warhammer, and hopefully there's people watching this and and enjoyed it as well. But for those of you that are watching, where can they find you?
You can find me stuck in the middle of the webway, in a pocket dimension called Camera. As you can see, this is where I have come to you from. But yeah, you can find me. I'm sure all the links will be in the link place, so you can always check that out. I wouldn't be able to do any of what I do without support from the community on Patreon and or YouTube. So thanks to everybody out there who likes, shares, subscribes, all that stuff. You know the drill. The algorithm god loves the drill as well. So I appreciate all of you.
So go check out Skari's show on Thursdays and Fridays live on Twitch. Then also the YouTube series for the meta analysis and the books that come out on YouTube, as well as his battle reports. Go follow him on Instagram just for any updates. And there's always updates from Mini Wargaming on his studio when he's in the studio, which is great to see. Please leave a comment below and share it with your friends. And I've been Dom. This has been Skari, and this has been Let's Talk Wargaming. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.